It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page.
Well, hi there. You're listening to Home Wizards. I'm Cindy Dole.
Hi, I'm Eric Stromer.
And we love to basically make you feel good about where you live, inside, outside.
We do it every day of our lives. We love it.
You know, and when you're in your living room, your family room, that place where you spend most of your time next to sleeping, right, and of course eating, do you feel like you have enough room in that room? Does it feel kind of claustrophobic? Yeah.
Depends on the room. I have a claustrophobic room, and
room.
then I have one that I think is great.
But I mean, your family room, does that feel claustrophobic?
Oh, my family? No, it's pretty good lately.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of great things that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
That I think makes a huge difference.
So, for instance, did you know that it is a myth to think that by putting the furniture against the wall or all the walls that it's going to make the room look or feel larger?
It is a myth, and I saw this
nutty.
time and time again on the design shows that I've done, where everybody thinks you got to plaster like it's in a centrifuge and everything spins to the exterior
like it's a
walls.
Dance hall. Like all of a sudden there's going to be a number.
Slide back the couch. Donna's going to do her dance. It's like it's that feeling, right? But that's not true. It's amazing how pulling furniture closer into the room, creating separate seating areas, having maybe a table behind a couch with some flowers on it, or
creates
some kind
movement.
of visual sensibility. Yeah, it creates movement, it makes it look more effective and efficient and actually larger in some cases.
So here's one of the secrets, is that there's a thing called negative space.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's a thing in lighting called negative fill.
And negative, like just like physical space, like
Right.
on the path on the floor, like visually look when you walk into the room, where do you feel a tendency to walk? Like straight to a window? Or through the room.
Some say that might even have feng shui origins.
Okay. So place your furniture so you have easy access walking through the natural path.
Right.
Needed for the
room. Like the flow of the room, essentially.
And that is going to make you feel like the room has more space.
And there's less obstacles.
And if you do that with the large furniture first, you're going to be way ahead of the game.
That's a great idea.
So what were you talking about in terms of negative lighting?
Well, negative fill,
fill.
is actually it's almost a technique of taking light away if it feels too dark in a shot. So it didn't have much. I just was thinking it didn't have much to do with what we're talking about. I just liked saying negative fill because every time you say it on a set, everybody looks at some guy like, who's
something.
Negative Phil? Where is he? What's he doing? Creating a bad vibe.
As in
here.
Phil the guy.
Yeah.
But you mean fill as in filling in the corner
filling
of the
in the corners.
But lighting is important.
No, lighting is essential.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, speaking of filling in the corners with lighting, if you don't have the ability to have natural light in a room with sort of obscure window coverings, then I suggest finding artificial lighting. And, track lighting is great in the lower room, like a basement or something like that. Anytime you can create corners that have a light source, shining down on them, it illuminates those dark corners and makes it look bigger, more airy and open. So that was my point about the lighting.
So the whole idea is if wherever there's a dark corner, get some light.
Get some light,
and that's going to somehow make the room feel like it's bigger.
That's exactly right. And please, everybody, don't think you got to cram every single piece of furniture in the room to just because you have it. If you've got the clutter and you've got more furniture than less, chances are it's going to feel really crowded and again, back to the point of easy egress in and out of rooms. You definitely want to take some stuff out and make it look more clean and sparse and organized, and not so filled with stuff like an antique store or something. Right.
So if you have, like you say, downsizing your furnishings, your sofa, your chairs, especially if they have like really high backs and huge arms.
They become like walls, like little pony walls in the room, right?
It's going to make the room feel a little crowded, and it will probably take up space unnecessarily.
That's exactly right. I believe that.
Also, another thing you can do to make the space look larger, of course, mirrors, that's not like any secret, but they really can make a small room look larger, not only with one room, but like multiple mirrors on a wall. I think the way that it reflects the light, it looks really pretty. You can come up with your own design of, let's say, it's different shapes of mirrors, but maybe it's in a similar frame, similar color.
It feels like it's taking away a barrier when you hang mirror on the wall. It just gives you an openness, and it reflects, especially if it can reflect things from outside in. in terms of the angles that you look at the mirror. It's really lovely, and it just, again, has that technique of making an open feel.
Remember when we were at the Showcase House a couple years ago, and we saw it was a very small bedroom.
Yeah.
And when you think of mirror tiles on a ceiling, you kind of go, oh, gosh.
Hey, we're in Vegas in the 70s.
But this was actually kind of cool because it was that antiqued mirror tile, meaning, those mirrors that have like little... Is it like little kind of black, bronzy? It's almost like the mirror itself has been eaten away. What would you call it? Like an acid wash.
It's like the etching has been taken off the back of the mirror.
And those were somehow adhered. These were tiles, and they were adhered to the ceiling, and it actually really looked cool because it reflected the light. It didn't look like you're in some 70s disco, but maybe that might be an interesting technique, too, in a living room. What
absolutely.
do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think it's great. You know what else? Paint. Man. Lighter shades obviously are going to make it feel more open and airy. If you've got a super dark room, it's going to feel more oppressive. So sometimes going monochromatic can be really helpful, even with some of your decor. If you've got a ton of vibrant color and the room is small, it can sort of pull in on itself. Again, think about having crisp, clean trim with a lighter molding with a lighter color, and that's going to kind of give it an open feel.
Gives that pop too, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Another really great sneaky trick that a lot of designers do to kind of almost make that room expand, it's almost like it's some kind of a special effect, is if you have pieces of furniture that have multiple roles. So let's say that you have a sofa, but then you also have an ottoman, and in the ottoman is a place where you can put books and blankets. It's like a storage ottoman.
Great idea.
Little things like that that can now, it's a footrest, but now it's also storage.
That's very helpful, and I'll tell you, any way that I could get my family members to figure out where the remote is all the time, and if it could all go to one unified space, I would love them forever. So yes, if you're listening, stop using the remote. You know what else designers always talk about too is the idea that your ceiling has to be completely white and stark is sort of a misnomer. You can also create sort of a fourth surface to kind of create height and the idea that there's something else going on up there by having really interesting things hanging from the ceiling like chandeliers or even a pop of color, believe it or not, on the ceiling. It can just give you more visual appeal and expand the room itself, kind of creating this fourth wall to look at, right? So think about that too. The ceiling could be a sky blue, for example, with a colorful room around it that might make that feel more open.
We've done this in certain rooms where we've taken the actual wall paint, but then we've cut the paint with a little bit of white. I think we've taken like a 2-to-1. Have you ever done this before, Eric, where you take, let's say, if your room was kind of a creamy yellow, but then the ceiling isn't the exact same shade. It's just a lighter tone as opposed to pure white.
Great idea. That's a great technique.
Yeah, so you would just take 2 parts of the color with 1 part of, let's say, like a creamy vanilla white, just to kind of use that.
Just kind of watering it down a little bit with white.
For your ceiling.
It's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, and then anything else that you can think of in terms of, again, let me go back to lighting for a second. Things like picture lights, even if they're just kind of illuminating a photo or a painting or something on the wall, makes a huge difference. Again, it opens up and spreads the eye out, so it feels like through lighting you're creating more dimension to the room itself. I really love that. And
leaving your windows uncovered are going to trick your eyes into thinking that your place has more depth. So, especially if you have an area where you don't need more privacy, the idea is maybe you're just kind of trimming the sides of the windows, but they're uncovered, and now it's going to bring more light in.
You mean like using shears?
Shears,
yes,
yeah.
Those are great.
Or just kind of a trim of some kind, and so now it's like the outside is in, the inside is out.
That's right.
And it kind of gives that landscape, it extends the room, so it looks like it's more.
And to that, if you have a room that has a beautiful outdoor view, integrate some of the outdoors by having beautiful objects out there to look at, like beautiful big pots, hanging baskets, anything where you create visual appeal and you look out of the room that
That's
you're
your
in.
artwork now inside, right?
That's it.
Eric Stormer, Cindy Dole, thanks for hanging with us, because you know what? We love to help improve the spaces you call home, inside and out. We are here at Home Wizards. Remember, you can always follow us at yourhomewizards.com.
While you place the flowers in the vase that you bought today.